Hi guys, Victoria Paxton here. Thanks for stopping back by my YouTube channel. Okay, so today I am going to do a famous singer. So y'all probably have already watched the Michael Jackson one. That was a really hard one for me to do. It was really hard. That was a hard one. Yeah. Anyway, this one I'm excited about. I thought this guy was so talented. I wasn't a huge fan. Like my kids, all three of my kids were huge fans of him. In fact, my oldest son his aunt lives by one of the guys in the band, the drummer of this band, and he actually grew up knowing this guy, but I had no clue that he was part of this band and went on to become the lead singer of another band. My son had no idea. Crazy. Okay, so it is Kurt Cobain. Nirvana, baby. Okay, so like I said, I always appreciated, his music. I always thought Kurt Cobain was talented. I wasn't like a huge groupie fan, but I appreciate good music, and I appreciated the fact that he was brilliant when it came to lyrics. He was a brilliant lyricist. So all right, let's get this started. So Kurt Donald Cobain was born on February 20th, 1967 in Aberdeen, Washington. Kurt formed the band Nirvana in 1987. Kurt was the guitarist and the frontman of the band. He was one of the original singers that established the Seattle music scene that became known as grunge. After signing with DGC Records, Nirvana had global success with Smells Like Teen Spirit in 1991. During the last years of his life, Cobain struggled with his heroin addiction, chronic pain issues, and depression. He also struggled with the personal and professional pressures of fame and his marriage to Courtney Love. Cobain was posthumously inducted into, did I say that word right? Posthumously. I have a hard time with that word. Inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame along with his bandmates. Chris Novoselic, I probably said that wrong, and David Grohl, in their first year of eligibility, which was 2014. So Dave Grohl was the one that my son actually knew. Pretty funny. On March 31st, 1994, Cobain escaped the rehabilitation center that he had checked into the day before, the Exodus Recovery Center. After this, he was seen by close friends and family. Starting on April 2nd, 1994, numerous sightings of him were reported in Seattle, Washington. The next day, he was seen alive for the first time. The next day he was seen alive for the last time. That's so sad. Within the week of his disappearance, Cobain was reported missing by his family and his wife, Courtney Love. Courtney hired a private investigator named Tom Grant to find Cobain after he had been sighted in Seattle. On April 8th, 1994, a body was discovered in the greenhouse above the garage at Cobain's house by a VECA electric company employee, Gary T. Smith, who arrived that morning to install security lighting. Smith thought the person was asleep until he saw blood oozing from his ear. He also found a suicide note with a pin stuck through it inside of a flower pot. A Remington Model 11 .28 shotgun purchased for Cobain by his friend and musician Dylan Carlson was found on Cobain's chest. All right, so what I did was I went and printed off Kurt's suicide note. So it says, to Bada, speaking from the tongue of an experienced simpleton who obviously would rather be emasculated infantile complainee. This note should be pretty easy to understand. All the warnings from the Punk Rock 101 courses over the years, since my first induction to the, shall we say, ethics involved with independence and the embracement of your community, has proven to be very true. I haven't felt the excitement of listening to as well as creating music along with reading and writing for too many years now. I feel guilty beyond words about these things. For example, when we're backstage and the lights go out and the manic roar of the crowd begins, it doesn't affect me the way in which it did for Freddie Mercury, who seemed to relish in the love and adoration from the crowd, which is something I totally admire and envy. The fact is, I can't fool you, any one of you. It simply isn't fair to you or me. The worst crime I could think of would be to rip people off by faking it and pretending as if I'm having 100% fun. Sometimes I feel as if I should have a punch in time clock before I walk out on stage. I've tried everything within my power to appreciate, and I do, God believe me, I do, but it's not enough. I appreciate the fact that I and we have affected and entertained a lot of people. It must be one of those narcissists who only appreciates things when they're gone. I'm too sensitive. I need to be slightly numb in order to regain the enthusiasms I once had as a child. On our last 3 tours, I've had a much better appreciation for all the people I've known personally and as fans of our music, but I still can't get over the frustration, the guilt, and empathy I have for everyone. There's good in all of us, and I think I simply love people too much. So much that it makes me feel too fucking sad. The sad little sensitive, unappreciative Pisces. Jesus, man. Why don't you just enjoy it? I don't know. I have a goddess of a wife who sweats ambition and empathy, and a daughter who reminds me too much of what I used to be, full of love and joy, kissing every person she meets because everyone is good and will do her no harm. And that terrifies me to the point to where I can barely function. Excuse me. I can't stand the thought of Francis becoming the miserable, self-destructive death rocker that I've become. I have it good, very good, and I'm grateful. Since the age of 7, I've become hateful towards all humans in general, only because it seems so easy for people to get along that have empathy. Only because I love and feel sorry for people too much, I guess. Thank you from the pit of my burning, nauseous stomach for your letters and concerns during the past years. I'm too much of an erratic, moody baby. I don't have the passion anymore, and so remember, it's better to burn out than to fade away. Peace, love, and empathy, Kurt Cobain. Francis and Courtney, I'll be at your altar. Please keep going, Courtney, for Francis, for her life, which will be so much happier without me. I love you. I love you. Yeah, so that's sad. Yeah, that's just really sad. Okay, so I was able to connect with Kurt. I went on to tell him how much I loved his writing and his sense of humor. He went on to say that not many people got his off-color humor. I asked him how he was doing. He talked a little bit about how at the end of his life he suffered tremendously, not only with depression, but with pain and stomach issues. He talked about how he felt like he was a burden to Courtney, a burden to his daughter, his family, and his friends, because he was suffering and always complaining about his pain. He went on to say that, he knew he was an addict, but he said that the heroin would take away his stomach pain. It helped calm his stomach. But no lie, he was one of the most intelligent people I've ever spoken with, most intelligent spirits I've ever communicated with. He was extremely intelligent. Yeah. He went on to talk a little bit more about how he felt bad for his fans because he just wasn't into it anymore, and he just didn't care anymore about wanting to do music, and he felt horrible, that he wasn't giving 100%, So he wanted to quit music, but he said he had a huge fear of going into retirement and the drugs just completely taking over his entire life to where he would end up losing his daughter. And that was a huge concern and fear for him. I asked him about his marriage to Courtney in the end, and he paused. He said, I loved Courtney so much, and I truly thought that she got me. But in the end, I felt like everything between us had disappeared. So he said he loved her, he always will, and he sees no point in rehashing the past. Yeah. He talks about how creative and free he is. He talks about he doesn't have to worry about drug addiction where he is. And I will say, he actually looks much older. He was probably like in his 40s is how I'm seeing him, with short hair. And he just looks healthy and happy, because I know I as part of my, research, I went back and I looked at some videos and stuff, and I was like, wow, he had you just tell he wasn't healthy and he wasn't happy. You just tell, you could just see it. So we talked back and forth, and I told him I wanted to ask him some tough questions, and he said he would answer if he was comfortable with answering. And I said, fair enough, I'll take that. So I asked him when he left the rehab center and flew home, was it his intention to kill himself? He said not in so many words. And so I asked him to explain, and he said that he had thought about suicide. He thought about suicide every day, a couple times a day. But that his biggest concern was getting heroin because he was in pain, and he's a drug addict, and he was withdrawing on top of the pain. And that was his focus. That's what he was trying to get to. And he went on to speak a little more in detail about how the heroin would calm his stomach down. And he said, you have to remember, he said, you have to remember that I had been put on so many different medications for my stomach issues, and nothing ever helped. Nothing that I took ever took the pain away completely. Okay, so I asked him what was behind his thoughts and everything behind the suicide letter that he had left. He said, I don't know. Was it a suicide letter? Maybe it was. All I know is it had been a long time since I'd been able to write anything, so it just felt good to be able to get a few thoughts down on paper. That took me kind of by surprise. He spoke about how he thought his marriage was in dire need of, at the very least, a break, which may have ultimately ended up as a permanent one, is what he was thinking. And he said Courtney was feeling that as well. I asked him to tell him if he would tell me about the very end and walk me through exactly what happened. He paused and he said, nothing I say or nothing I do will make any difference. I'm gone and everyone's lives have moved forward. I'm quoting all this, y'all, so does it really matter if I took my own life or if someone else did? If someone else took part in my demise, they'll have to answer to it in the end. Wow. Yeah, so that leaves me to believe that someone helped in his demise. And that just opens up even more questions, I asked him if he would elaborate on it, and he said, no, there's just no point. I could tell he was trying to pull away. So I said, can I ask you one last question? And he said, of course. And I said, do you get to see, other musicians up there? Do you get to see Elvis? And he kind of chuckled and smiled, and he said, of course I see Mr. Presley. So I was like, oh, okay. Okay, pretty cool. I will tell you this. I have done many, many readings. I've connected with many spirits in the past, and I will 100% tell you that I really liked connecting with him and talking to him. He's just such a smart guy. He really is. He's just so deep and so intelligent. I did a connection with Charles Manson, and everybody said how brilliant he was. I didn't get that at all. I didn't get any of that. But with Kurt Cobain, I most definitely did. He's very intelligent, just very down to earth too. But yeah, it was really cool connecting with them. I really liked that a lot. So yeah. Okay, guys. So be kind, be nice to each other, right? Wear your mask. I know this pandemic is still dragging on, and I'm sorry, and I hope everyone's staying safe and well. And that about does it for me. Bye.